it is very hard for any Dalit guy to pick up a mic and do open mics every day. So that's Dalit comedy. I guess 2019 I started addressing on stage that I'm Dalit, and it is an expensive art form for the performer and for the audience also. You can't expect a Dalit guy who comes from a village who is working hard to earn money and send money back. They won't indulge into going to comedy shows and all. People who have money, they come. Trolling is like mostly one two trollers I get. Like one incident happened in Pune when I was doing the India tour, my first leg. Everyone had a good time except one guy, and when the people were clipping picture, that guy came. I thought he's clipping picture, and he said, "Do you have a lawyer?" And because I'm a comedian, I have to be. I was like, "Yeah, I do." And he said, "Okay, keep it handy. You'll need it really soon," and walked off.
Hello and welcome to the DeadAnt chat room. I'm your host Manoj Kapil, and joining us today is comedian Manjeet Sarkar, who's currently in the middle of an all-India tour with his new show Untouchable. Welcome to the show, Manjeet.
Thank you, Manoj. Thank you for having me here. I'm excited.
So I wanted to start from the beginning. So you grew up in Bastar in Chhattisgarh. Can you tell us about that and how those experiences shaped you and your comedy?
Yeah, so as you know, as you said that I grew up in Bastar, Chhattisgarh. It's a tiny town, not town, it's a village. And the nearest town is around 25 kilometers away from here. So I'm half tribe and half refugee from Bangladesh. So I grew up in that scenario, and things were not that good for me. But I was a child labor initially. Then I started going to school because of midday meal, free midday meal. That's why I used to go to school in Odisha because they used to provide meal. So I continued that because that was my escape from child labor. So and then I never had like friends and all because of obvious reason caste. So later on I got scholarship. I was good at studies. I got scholarship. I went to tier 3 cities in a city in Odisha. It's called Berhampur. And there also I couldn't make friends. For some reason I couldn't make friends, and that at that time a really beautiful thing happened, that is internet. And it was amazing. I was always into history and all, and I started watching a lot of videos related to it. And especially I discovered Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. and started reading and doing research about civil war. And around that time I got introduced to Dave Chappelle, and the first time I saw Dave Chappelle, I was like, okay, this is something I've never seen before. Like someone is talking about things and making it funny also. And then I discovered Patris, and that was a different genre itself. Like he's not talking about anything which is political, but also is talking about something which has really good insight to it. With a lot of inappropriate thing at that time, I used to think that. So that was very fascinating to me, and I kept on watching. Then I discovered Russell Peter. I was like, okay, Indian people are also doing it, but he's in Canada or US. Then I searched on YouTube saying stand-up comedy in India, and I expected Kapil Sharma to pop up, but he did not. And surprisingly, I saw Varun Grover's video. And I was always a fan of him after watching Masan. And I was like, okay, so if this guy is doing it, I want to be a good writer one day. So I think I also have to do comedy. But that's how I got introduced when I was in my graduation in fourth year. But I became the first. After that, I started searching for places where comedy happens in Odisha. And there was only one open mic used to happen in Bhubaneswar, which was around like 200 kilometers away. And I texted them. I kept spamming them, please give me a spot. And the same day when the open mic was, I remember I had a back exam. So I had to choose between my academics and that thing, which I don't know whether it will go good or bad. So I remember that day only there was a strike going on, so no public transportation. I borrowed a motorcycle from my friend, and I was going, and while passing through the college, I saw people going to the exam, and I was going to do something which I never did before. And I did, and it was horrible. I bombed for. I had a 5 minute spot, and I got down in 3 minutes, I guess. It was horrible, and all those hacky jokes, like Salman Khan jokes, I had. Right? So, but when I was on stage, I believe I had something that I never. I was a very shy person. I was introvert. I never spoke to someone. But when I was in that stage, I felt very empowered. I felt like, okay, I think this is something I want to do the rest of my life. And when I came back, I was like, this is because at that time also I was like, okay, eventually I can talk a lot about things that people can't talk about because my experience are different, and the comedy comes from experience. So that was the starting point, basically.
Yeah. So just to wind it back a little bit, you said कि आपने बोला कि when you were a kid you didn't have a lot of friends, probably because of caste. आपको caste का awareness मतलब कब से आने लगा कि people seeing you differently, or even in terms of caste, the Dalit pride for example, वो आपका early experiences और early memories क्या है?
अर्ली एक्सपीरियंस मेरे को पता चला स्कूल से, क्योंकि बताते हैं लोग
और पूछते हैं.
हाँ, मतलब आई रिमेम्बर व्हेन आई वाज धीरे धीरे पता चला बिकॉज आई वाज कंडीशन टू द फैक्ट दैट ओके सर्टेन थिंग्स वी हैव टू डू इन अ सर्टेन वे. लाइक आई सॉ माई पेरेंट्स डू, लाइक मेरे मम्मी पापा जब किसी के घर जाते थे मेरे मम्मी पापा नीचे बैठते थे, एंड आई वाज लाइक ओके मम्मी पापा नीचे बैठ रहे तो मेरे को भी नीचे बैठना चाहिए शायद. आई हैव टू गो टू स्कूल जहाँ पे आई थिंक देयर वर ओनली 3-4 दलित students in our school, and our school anyway was a government school and it was a poor school. We didn't have bench and chair and all. Everybody used to sit in the floor, and somehow only the Dalit kids didn't have mats, and everyone, and then you can like differentiate कि कौन दलित है और कौन नहीं है by them, like, and there is a thing कि पता चल जाता है. And teacher also kept me aware of that fact that I'm Dalit. They'll be like, okay, yeah, eventually you will get reservation, so that you are coming here for that, all this. So it was there. So I at that time I did not question what is wrong. I just thought that this is how it should be. This is how society works. I belong to a community which is supposed to be like this. Like I was conditioned until I guess I was in 8th or 9th standard in a hostel where I had gone because of the reservation and scholarship. It was most of the students were upper caste, and the bullying was constant. So at that time the discrimination was immense because there I had to live. I had to live for a period. Like मैं रात को सोता भी हुई था, दिन भर उन्हीं के साथ हूँ और कोई है ही नहीं. And apart from the physical bully, so at that time I used to go back to home and ask, what is this and all? Is this because we are refugees, or is this because something else? So those kind of questions I used to ask my parents.
And so you went to Bhubaneswar, you did the open mic, and you decided you really like comedy, and then you moved to Bangalore.
I moved to Bombay first.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought that is the only place where comedy happens. So I was like, okay, I lied to my parents that I'm going for some study thing, and I went there. I lived in one RK because my parents didn't have good enough money back then. So I was living in one RK with 4 other dudes in Malad. It was horrible, and also in Bombay the performer had to pay and all, traveling and all these things, and Bombay is freaking expensive. So I was there for 3-4 months. I used to perform in Varsoba, Laughing Coconut, and then there was a comedy club called Mad Bee Comedy Club. I had got one spot in the entire 4 months in Habitat open mic, It was I was really nervous because I saw all these big names performing there, and it is back in 2018. I guess when I performed there in Habitat, Aishwarya Mohan's first open mic was that day. So I remember seeing that when she said that. So after a while, that I saw that it's very expensive, and also I can't lie to my parents more. So I said, okay, I think I need to check where else comedy happens. And I saw a bunch of comedians from Bangalore, and also Kenny, Kanan, and Viswas from Bangalore. And I realized that the writing style, how comedians in Bangalore write, that kind of writing I really like. So that like very joke and very New Yorky type, I believe. So I was like, okay, I'll move there, and I'll start doing MBA, because I needed a good reason, solid reason to be here away from my parents. So that's how I came to Bangalore in 2018 August, and started doing open mics here.
And so, how welcoming or inclusive was the Bangalore scene? Especially, I know you didn't start off doing any comedy related to caste, especially once you started doing material around your identity.
I guess the comics itself one of the best, because they don't care what caste and what religion you come from. They care about whether your jokes suck or if you are doing good. If you do good, also they'll roast you to ask you to do better. So that kept me on because I was in Bombay, and Bombay, other comics, either I somehow I felt there was a little bit classism, but somehow people were extra nicer to you. They would be like, okay, it's nice. And I never heard the word bomb in very often. But when I came to Bangalore, everybody suddenly was like, what was this? You suck. If you keep doing it, we won't give you spot. You have to, you bomb, but write better. That kind of thing. And I was horrified initially, because I was never experienced this kind of treatment. So eventually, after a few months, I realized, oh, this is actually working. I am actually started watching more stand-up and doing a bit more research on it, and started writing more and more. So that's how initially first 2 to 3 years was constant humiliation only. I bombed a lot. So yeah, that's how I found.
And what encouraged you to then also start addressing, well, the very obvious sort of issues of caste in your comedy?
Yeah, so the more I was doing, I was trying to write jokes how other comedians write, right? I was like, okay, this is funny. The people are talking about school days. I should talk about also school days now. There I was stuck. And then I talked to a bunch of comedians like Jyotin Patro and Anand Rattam and all, and they were always like, talk about your experience. Because that's the truth, and that will make your content funny. So, and my experiences are Anganbadi and Dalia, not like Kinder Joy and Kindergarten, right? So I was like, okay, so whenever I started writing any story, I thought I'll do anecdotes. The only stories I had was about my village life or experience, or there was directly connected to how my experience was in terms of the caste I belonged to. So I was like, let's give it a try, and I started doing it because I thought people won't relate to it, which is true. People don't relate to it, but people also knows this is true. And so initially the challenge was to make it funny, because it also already looks horrible when you say, like, sounds horrible when you say those things. So in I guess 2019 I started addressing on stage that I'm Dalit, and doing started with 5 minutes bit, and now I guess I have around 40 to 45 minutes on those experiences. Yeah.
And how did like the mostly sort of Savarna audiences react to that? I've noticed that you got it rolling online, of course, but also there's a couple of videos of people getting angry at your shows also. Was that like, is that an outlier कि वैसी चीजें होती रहती हैं?
So normally my audiences are Savarna.
Audiences, I saw one.
Yeah, so my audiences are Savarnas though, because they only can afford the tickets. It is an expensive art form for the performer and for the audience also. You can't expect a Dalit guy who comes from a village who is working hard to earn money and send money back, they won't indulge into going to comedy shows and all. People who have money, they come. And also that's the reason, one of the reason why we have less number of Dalit comedians, because the performing art is also very expensive. I believe that comedy is one of the most expensive art form in India right now. The audiences are Savarnas basically, who are journalists, or who are writers and who are book readers basically, who want to. So this is the demographics I'm saying. So there are like 10 to 15% people who comes because they think I'm really funny. Then there are 10 to 20, I guess, and then 30% comes like PhD scholars, journalists, all of it, then writers, and then people who want to just see me. This is, and trolling is like mostly one two trollers I get. Like one incident happened in Pune when I was doing the India tour, my first lag. This is the second time I'm doing tour.
Okay.
There, everyone had a good time except one guy. And when the people were clicking picture, that guy came. I thought he's clicking picture, and he said, "Do you have a lawyer?" And because I'm a comedian, I have to be. I was like, "Yeah, I do." And he said, "Okay, keep it handy. You'll need it really soon." And walked off. I was really scared. I texted Kunal, and then I thought maybe he is a lawyer and he's asking for a job. And so, like, do you have a lawyer? I am one. You need it. You need me. So kind of thing.
But maybe he was giving friendly advice.
Yeah. So those kind of incident also comes, but it is a part of a live comedy show. Comedy show doesn't feel really good without having a mixed crowd. You need all those voices to be in the crowd, so that you get constructive criticism along with the praises.
I wanted to ask, so you've spoken earlier about, even anti-caste Savarna liberals sort of expect you to romanticize your struggle, play the good victim, and I'm sure that's quite annoying. Do you think like liberals suffer from too much sort of main character syndrome?
I do talk about that also. I do talk about how journalists want to write only the sad part of it. When I don't tell them, then don't write it in a sadder tone. I'm cool. I'm a comedian. I make things better. If you want to write about things, I remember one journalist had called, and she was like, I just want you to talk about your childhood struggle and your struggle. I'm like, then talk to any Dalit guy. We have the same struggle. So if you want to talk to me, then talk about comedy. I'm a comedian. I'm a comedian who is also Dalit. I'm not a Dalit who is comedian. You are reaching out to me because I'm a comedian and Dalit. Dalit people are everywhere, and their struggle is immense. Right now I'm doing well. There are people who are not doing well. Talk about them now. Talk about comedy I do, how I paint the picture, how things are there. So they do sympathize, which I don't like, and until they come to my show, they do sympathize, because after that they don't do that. So because I address those things a lot.
So, to talk about the comedy, tell us a little bit about the show Untouchable. What's it about? And how have the shows till now been?
So Untouchable, the concept behind the name was like double entendre, of course, because Dalit and Untouchable is, I think I'm really good as a comedian. So nobody can touch me. That was the thing basically. But eventually, so the whole 1 hour solo is an introduction to me to the comedy scene, or to the audience, that what I am, what kind of experiences I have. Because of course I can't talk about my past experiences, all the every shows I do. After this 1 hour I put online, I can't talk about this. Later on my life changes, my experience will change. I'll talk about the experiences I have eventually. So this is kind of introduction, that what kind of thing happened to me, the village I belong to, what are the things there. There are a lot of insight and stories, there is a bridge in my village in Bastar, which is they're trying to make it from last 30 to 40 years now, and every time they make it, the Naxalite blew it away. So I take that story, I make it funny. So those are the things. There are the jokes are there in the shows जहाँ की मैं बोल रहा हूँ कि मैं ऐसी जगह से आता हूँ और मैं ये हूँ, और आगे जाके जो भी मेरे कंटेंट आएंगे, जो पर्सपेक्टिव वहाँ से आ रहा है. If I'm thinking this is the thing.
And how is the shows already that you already done? How have they gone?
Oh, it has been going really well. I did 4 to 5 solos in Bangalore, and 3 of them had repeated audience, which is annoying, but also shows that they liked you. So I said, don't buy tickets again. The material are same, but they did. So I'm happy, and also they're like, okay.
So you mentioned earlier about how shows are expensive for people to attend, and like how shows are not very accessible to Dalit audiences. Is that something that you want to sort of change? Maybe go perform in spaces that are maybe Ambedkarite spaces, where it's also more relatable to the audience?
Yes, so first I will start addressing the things, Dalit, any material related to caste and discrimination is relatable to 80% of the Indian population who lives in rural area. But 80% of the Indian audience doesn't actually watch comedy. They don't do it. So the rest of the 20%, they don't have any idea about the caste discrimination, right? So we're trying. I mean, I'm collaborating with different collective, like Mara is a collective from Bangalore. I'm collaborating with them, and we are going to a bunch of NGOs of sex workers, transgender and Dalit areas, kids, and asking them, whoever, like making them comfortable, and asking them whoever is actually comfortable or want to share their story and learn how to make it in a funny way, and then give them free workshop. We'll talk to comedians who can come and provide their times for Tamil, Kannada, because I'll start with Bangalore. So in Bangalore, mostly the kids will want to start in Kannada and Tamil, or maybe in Hindi or English. If Hindi and English, then we are there. We have a bunch of comedians. But in Kannada, I have really good friends in Kannada comedy circle as well. And for Tamil, we'll ask any Tamil comedian from Chennai to come here for one day and give a workshop. After the workshop, we'll try to have like 4-5 normal open mic, inclusive open mics for them. And once they feel confident enough, we'll try to make them ask for spot in different actual open mics, which happens in Bangalore, like where we perform basically. And then they go, and after 1 or 2 months, they will tell if they are actually into it and the hunger is actually real. Then we can see forward, and for that, for their sponsorship of that whole journey, we are trying to get grants for it, because the traveling, and if you go there, you want everyone is eating something from the cafe and bar.
Yeah.
You will need. So those are the things we are now working on right now.
That sounds like a great idea, and I hope that works out. That's about all the time we have today. But before we go, I just wanted to ask you if you have about any future plans and what you have in the works after this tour is over.
So thank you for asking. So I'm writing a book also. The book is called Matua, Asia's First Dalit Movement, which it is. Matua is a community I belong to from Bangladesh. So and internet doesn't have anything on it, and it is the first Dalit movement which was successful. Yeah. So the Matua is a community from Bangladesh. It has started in 1700. The founding father is right here. The father is there. So and internet doesn't have any information about it. It's amazing that internet, where you have all the information tip of your finger, you can't find about a successful revelation. So I'm writing a book on it. I am planning to go to Harvard to do a research on Dalit artists under a fellowship. On 14th April, I'm starting the India tour. I'm also addressing, as a keynote speaker to University of Virginia, organized by Yale University. So I'm excited for that. I'm still trying to get a passport and visa, but hopefully we'll do virtually, if not then. And and documentary. This whole India tour will be documented, and I want to release it as a documentary initially. Untouchable, the documentary, like how the jokes are developed, basically the Bangalore comedy scene, the comedians, how we hang out. Like, because when we started doing comedy, we were searching for documentaries, New York documentary, LA documentary, the Comedy Store documentary too. So this helps aspiring comedians. Maybe after, like, down the year, 30 years later, some comedian who wants to look back to the comedy scene in Bangalore, how it was, they will watch it and like it. So that was the plan. So right now, these are the plans I have.
That sounds very exciting, and hopefully see you at the Bombay leg of the tour. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much, DeadAnt, and everyone, for having me. Amazing. I'm excited to talk to you.